Hello, I'm Emma Louise Coffey and you're welcome to The Dairy Edge, the Teagasc Dairy podcast. We're bringing you the latest information, insights and opinion to improve dairy farm performance. On this week's episode, we're looking ahead to the Grassland Open Day on April 24th with John McNamara. On the second part of our interview with John, he gives us an insight into his grass story. So I guess, John, it's remiss of us to be here on the farm and really not get into the grass situation. So if we can delve into that a little bit, I suppose, can you talk through the grazing season on this farm, when it starts, how the shoulders go for you?
Yeah, Emma Louise, I suppose, look, the grazing season is when the cows are milking. So, obviously that runs from probably the 10th of February, I suppose, to the 1st of December, really. We'll try and keep grass in the cow's diet as much as possible when the cow is milking. That's the plan. Look, it'll be quite difficult at maybe the very start of the year or maybe also at the very end. But sure, look, I suppose this year, we're after coming out of a very difficult spring in 18. But look, spring in 19 was totally different. And February was probably the best February that we've ever had, Emma Louise, for grass management. Cows were out full time, day and night. And look, it's after turning trickier in the last fortnight in March, but like February was a phenomenal February and it gave us a brilliant start to 2019.
And, you allude to the start and the end of the grazing season be quite difficult. What sort of soil type are you on here? Is it heavy, free draining?
Look, it's heavy enough soil, Emma Louise, but I suppose, look, that just creates a challenge. It doesn't really create a huge problem. I like to see problems as challenges because the definition of a challenge is something that you can overcome. So, look, we set about it that way. If we have to do spur roadways, if we have to walk to the backs of paddocks, if we have to go out for 3 hours, and back in again, we have to do that. And, look, we're still learning on that. We've probably made 1 or 2 mistakes in the last fortnight, but I suppose, look, we'll learn from that and we won't make them again next year at the end of the year. So, look, we try to work the grass as much as possible. And look, it is a challenge on some of the soil that we're on here, but look, we still really see the benefits of the grass and we do our best to try and have them out as much as possible.
So you mentioned spur roadways, 3-hour grazing. That's really kind of the on-off, I suppose, the on-off traits on farming. Do you do that for long in the spring?
Yeah, sure. I suppose we've had to do it for the last fortnight, Emma Louise, really. You'll only do it when you have to do it because, I suppose it's more important to try and get the cows onto grass and get them settled. But you have to work with what conditions are there. You have to work with the weather that's there. And if that means just 3 hours on, 3 hours off and the cows are hungry going onto it, look, grass is a much better feed than any other roughage that the cows will be eating at this time of the year, both for the health of the cow and I suppose, also for the milk that the cows are producing as well. So look, we've seen the benefits of that over the years, and that's why we'll do our very best to try and get the grass in the cow's diet each day of the year.
And I suppose it's a bit of extra work for the farmer, but I guess you've alluded to it. It's 2 weeks. It's not a long time in the grand scheme of things. And then if we look at grass, then you're talking about it as good quality feed. It's a cheap feed, right? There's lots of KPIs that we can talk about, but in your mind, what are the main KPIs for you to, in terms of targets for you to achieve in relation to grass?
Sure, look, Emma Louise, the important point for me would be that the grazing season probably, starts in August. It's that probably second last, grazing round that's very, very important because you must get your clean outs right. You must extend your rotation then, so to make sure that you reach your targets, for, when you're starting your last round. So, and we have to be very careful not to end up with too much grass, Emma Louise, facing into end of September either, because if ground conditions start getting sticky and messy and stuff. So look, we'll try and increase the rotation maybe by 2 days a week in August. We'll try and get to the 30 days by maybe 28-30 days by the first week of September, and we'll probably go to a farm cover maybe of 1,200 of an average farm cover facing the end of September, which will probably be our peak. We probably don't want to go any more than that, because I suppose, look, at that rate you're going to be into covers of 2, 3. We don't want to be any. We certainly don't want to be 2.5 and trying to graze them, in early October. But we'll probably go to that 1,150, 1,200, so that we'll be able to extend our last rotation, which normally begins on the 10th of October, and we can extend that out into 40, 45, maybe to 50 days. And I suppose, look, that really sets us up then for the following season again. You get your closing cover right, and I suppose, look, winter we've had this year, we've had, brilliant growth rates, probably average 10, 11 growth rate over the winter this year, and it gave us a massive opening cover. Never before saw the amount of grass on the farm that we have this spring, which even in turn this spring, allowed us to get dry cows out for a period as well in February and stuff. So look, you do these things to manage the grass as well once you have it there. So look, moving into the springtime, again, your KPIs or your targets you need to be achieving is, we're trying to get, I suppose, our 35%, grazed off in February. We might have been slightly behind it because we tried to graze one or two of the heavier covers that were on the wetter grounds, and then your next one is maybe by Patrick's Day to try and get, your 60 or 65% again. And look, you're trying to have the full first round graze by the first week in April. And look, we'll just measure that now over the next 2 weeks, and if we have to extend that a small bit, we will. And a lot depends on the growth rate in the next fortnight. Look, after that, Emma Louise, to try and get you're quite correct in trying to get your 10 grazings per year in each paddock. But look, that can be difficult as well. You really have to be on the ball every day, and you need to get your 2 short rotations as well during the May-June period. So look, it creates a challenge. But I suppose, look, I'm much happier putting up wires and being outdoors than actually doing cupicles and feeding out silage inside. So look, let's see how this year goes. But I suppose, look, we seem to know the basics at this stage. We know kind of what works, and I suppose it's just go out and meet them challenges now.
And you mentioned the 10 grazings per year for each paddock on the farm. What sort of grazings have you achieved? I know 2018 was a difficult one, but if we look back to 2017, how many grazings did you achieve?
Yeah, sure, Emma Louise, we've had some paddocks at 10 grazings probably for a number of years at this stage. I suppose going back maybe even 3 years ago, I never actually believed before that you could actually graze the full year without either topping or mowing a paddock. And I suppose maybe 3 years ago we'd 5 or 6 paddocks like that. 2 years ago I think we'd 10 paddocks, and last year I think there was only 2 paddocks that we actually took out for bale silage off the milking platform. So to come over the last 5 years to have decided like that, that a paddock now doesn't have to be topped or mowed once you actually graze it properly, it to me is brilliant progress, and it's probably something that that I suppose that every farmer probably should be doing at this stage to making sure that there's no wastage of grass. I mean, this is the biggest thing going forward, that it's even though grass is cheap to grow, it still is a cost to grow, and I suppose you can't afford to waste such a valuable product like that.
And if we can move on then and we look at the cow's diet, you're very kind of pro getting the cows out once they calve, so you're looking at a grass as the main component of the diet. But say silage will come in at some points into the diet, and concentrate is a feed that we would use quite regularly in the dairy cow diet. If we look at the overall year, what sort of concentrate and silage would you be feeding the cows?
Yeah, sure, Louise. Look, the silage will only come into the milking cow's diet, and if we're really, really short, we'll always, put in the ration first of all. I suppose excluding last year, Louise, our ration is probably around 400 kilos a cow over the year. We'll never feed more than 2 to 3 kilos in the springtime, and look, we'll feed it in the back end when we're probably getting a response as well. When very little ration is fed over the summer months, we'll probably have to feed us at a 0.1 or 0.2. It's maybe mainly to encourage them out of the field. I suppose, look, I mentioned it, there already that, you don't really want to be feeding ration and then wasting grass outside in the field. It's very important to have a green butt on the grass at all stages, that you graze at the right time, you graze at the 1400 cover, and that you're not wasting any material outside. And look, if you have to feed a bit of extra ration and you're not wasting any material outside, look, that's okay. Silage will only come in at the real last resort, because silage will just knock production and it'll knock solids as well.
And if we look at soil fertility then, and this is something like we've talked about a lot on the podcast, because everyone seems to come back to it when they're talking about the grass story. Is it challenging for you having a heavier soil type?
Yeah, I think soil fertility is a challenge for everyone, Emma Louise. You must start with the pH, which is the lime status. The pH has to be correct. Between 6.3, 6.4. Even 6.1 is probably not good enough. If the pH is not right, no matter what fertilizer you put out, you're probably only getting 70%. Response from that. And look, fertilizer is a big cost on a dairy farm nowadays as well. So you must start with the pH. You must get the lime right. And look, we've been really working on that over the last number of years. And look, we've been working on the P and K as well, and working within the allowances and stuff. And look, we've seen now there's no restriction on the K, and we've I suppose most of the farm up now with the dark green. And look, fair play to Teagasc as well. The colour coordinate maps have been brilliant in actually focus on our eyes, and sometimes it's the simple things that actually will focus you, where you realise suddenly that the white and blue fields are certainly not the way forward, and everything needs to be green at this stage. And look, I suppose we've learnt a lot with the maps as well.
And I suppose as we look around the yard today, John, and we've been out with the cows grazing, it's impeccably clean, particularly given the time of year it is. And I mean, the heifer calves are inside, nestled into a bed of straw. I suppose looking around the yard, you're opening up the farm at the end of the month for, as Grass 10 champions. What can people expect to see on the day if they travel?
Yeah, that's right, Emma Louise. There's an open day at the end of next month. I suppose, look, you mentioned the heifer calves, I suppose, look, and we'll hope if next week's weather settles as well, Emma Louise, they'll hit grass as well next week. I suppose, we'll hope that, I suppose, at that stage everything should be calved. We'll probably be, maybe a week to 2 weeks away from the start of breeding. So I suppose, look, a lot will depend on the weather in the meantime, but I suppose we probably should be very close to starting our third round of grazing as well at that stage. So look, let's hope that, we'll see a herd of crossbred cows, I suppose, at this stage, grazing, ideally on a 24 or 36 hour block at that stage if we could. And, with all cows calved and, all heifer calves gone to the out farm. And I suppose, look, hopefully with spring milk production, in full peak even at that stage, and hopefully we should be supplying good solids as well at the time.
That's great. Thanks very much, John. We look forward to the open day on Wednesday the 24th of April. That's it for this week's episode of the Dairy Edge podcast, and my thanks to John McNamara for joining me on this week's show. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify, and for more information go to the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie. I'm Emma Louise Coffey, and join me next time for your Dairy Edge.